Hey, good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here with us today. I'm Katie Earle. I'm the coordinator of our University Express program, and I work for the Erie County Department of Senior Services. And we're here with Elizabeth Carey and Kevin Fairbanks Bloom from AAA, and we're so excited. I know we're all dying to get back out there and travel, so we're glad you're here with us. Quickly, some housekeeping. We are recording this session, and I'll try to post it on our website in the near future if everything goes as planned. And while they're going through their presentation, if you have any questions or comments, put those in that good old Q&A panel, and we'll try to get to as many as we can at the end of our program. So quick shout out to our sponsors, which is my Department of Senior Services, Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, Excelsior Orthopedics, and Wegmans for everything they do to make this program possible. And if you ever need anything at Senior Services, we're at 858-8526, and we'll do whatever we can to help you out. So Elizabeth serves as the Director of Public Relations and Corporate Communications for AAA of Western and Central New York. And Kevin Bloom is a Senior Travel Advisor, and we're so excited. So take it away, folks. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much for having us. I know Kevin and I have given some travel presentations together in the past. And Kevin, I know we're so excited to return to travel, and you're going to share what you're seeing from your clients and more who are, getting back out there as well.
For sure. It's been, an up and down roller coaster over the last since, really February of 2020. And so for quite a while, we were just doing that cancel, rebook with a little bit of, you know what, we know it's going to be crazy, but we still want to start planning and have something to look forward to. But the last few months, it really has turned around, and it's a lot more of the new bookings. We're tired, if we're going to be dealing with this at home, we may as well be dealing with this while, somewhere else that's a lot more fun. And so we're seeing those bookings increase big time over what we were dealing with before. So we're really excited too.
Yeah, so people love to travel, and it's part of their lifestyle, and they love to share their pictures and more. So I know there's a lot of pent-up demand too, and we're going to fill you in on where people are going, what the current trends are, some recent surveys that AAA has done, and happy to answer questions about destinations or protocols or anything that you have along the way. So as Katie said, feel free to put those right in that chat, and we'll get to the questions at the Q&A. But we wanted to talk about the return to travel. So like Kevin had mentioned, his phone's ringing off the wall, and we really are seeing things return to pre-pandemic levels. If you take a look at even 4th of July this year for Independence Day travel, the numbers really had returned to 2019 levels. So it was a really strong summer travel season. And then, of course, the COVID variant did raise some concerns with travelers who might not want to get stranded in different destinations. And so there's always concerns about safety. And AAA reminds everyone, what's comfortable for one person might not be comfortable for the next. So you really have to choose what's good for you. Some people might say, I want to travel right now. I'll travel the globe. Some people might say, you know what, I'm not ready yet. I want to stay home. And that's fine too. We remind people, if you're not ready to travel yet, dream about it and plan ahead for the future so that you can travel again in the future. So there is something for everyone out there. Some people still staying within New York State, some within the United States, and some saying, where can I go? Like Kevin said, it's someplace more fun than home. And a lot of people, of course, have that pent-up demand for travel. So a recent AAA travel survey showed that more than half, 55% of Americans have at least an overnight vacation booked through the end of next year. So a lot of people do have something already on the books already. And the recent AAA travel bookings have increased 11% over 2019. Now, like Kevin had mentioned, a lot of people were using those cruise and travel credits that they had kind of built up through trips that were delayed or postponed from 2020. And now we're seeing more people booking big regular trips. And I know, Kevin, you have some clients that are really looking to go on some luxurious getaways.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Again, when you're thinking about all these people that have just canceled and rebooked over and over again, they've moved to, okay, we'll travel later 2020. That didn't work. We'll travel in 2021. At least half of that year didn't work too well either. And a lot of them have then said, okay, we're moving to 2022. So 2022 has been filling up very quickly for many different products. Obviously, there's still a lot, available. But at the same point, having some options and some fallback ideas, just in case your first choice is not available, is always a good plan. I mean, we dealt with that before too, but it's even more so now. People are now booking 2023, and I think we even have one booking for 2024, which is kind of odd, but way far in advance compared to what we would normally see. So it's, as I said, it's been exciting seeing all those new bookings coming in. And the people that are looking at that luxury travel option, they're the ones that are a little bit more intrepid travelers, and they're the ones that have been traveling through a lot of this. And so I've got a group that's planning for October of 2022, a big Mediterranean cruise. And so, again, just lots of exciting things going on.
And I just love this picture, how it says welcome back, and those chairs are empty, but not for long, because of course people are heading out and filling up those beach chairs. This picture was taken in the Bahamas, on actually Royal Caribbean's private island, the perfect day at Coco Cay. And we'll talk about cruises in the cruise segment as well, but we have seen, cruises start to increase their capacity for the number of guests on board. But still, that planning ahead is key, like Kevin said, because there could be limited availability, especially in your top choice destinations. Personally, I was just in New York City over the weekend, and it's almost impossible to get a last minute Broadway show ticket. People are booking well out. I thought I had some tickets. I'm like, oh, wow, there's all these tickets available. And no, that was October of next year. So people were planning, and like, no, oh, okay, 2021, yeah, that's sold out. I had October 2022 had popped up in the Ticketmaster, so I thought that was kind of funny. But we have seen more and more people getting back out there. So when we talk about the current travel trends, really throughout all of this, there were times when we were limited with the safety protocols put in place in New York State, that they wanted New Yorkers to stay within the state. And then some other states didn't want New Yorkers to come in. And then all of a sudden it was like, okay, you could go places. And the minute that they lifted those restrictions, we saw people calling AAA and saying, okay, I need to book a trip. But since then, it's really been domestic, Caribbean, and Mexico, very popular. And most of those areas had their borders open, especially this year, for people to travel. So a lot of people are taking advantage of beach vacations. And Kevin, I know a lot of people went out west in the national parks this year.
Right. Yeah, they absolutely did. The national parks, the number of visitors this year went higher than it's ever been before, which created capacity problems, and people ended up having to get reservations to go into the parks and things like that, just to keep track of the numbers, and also so that it didn't get too overcrowded. And reservations at the lodges in the parks became very difficult to find. Some of the tour operators that normally stayed in the parks couldn't get their reservations, so they had to use hotels that were outside of the parks. So it created a little bit of a crunch this year, because that demand really was there. People needed to move. We wanted to get away from home and do something, and we haven't had a chance to do this yet because we've been concentrating on other things. Well, now's our chance to do it and still feel relatively safe doing it. So we really saw that. Next year for 2022, it's still really popular. We're still asking, having people contacting us and saying we're not quite there yet with the cruise or with the international travel. So here's our chance to get those parks under our belt, or to go out and do the Alaska trip, or things like that. So the domestic travel is still going to be a big player for 2022. That's definitely for sure.
And of course, that Instagram effect, I call, or the Facebook effect, whatever, any social media, people post pictures and then their friends see it. And next thing you know, they want to go too, and check out the beautiful pictures. And we see a lot of that with the fall foliage. So road trips still very popular throughout the fall season. Of course, with leaf peepers, want to go out there and get those fall foliage pictures. Like Kevin had mentioned, the international travel is being booked in advance. Cruising is making a comeback, and it is expanding, and we'll talk about that too. But one other thing I wanted to touch on was the multi-generational travel and the villa vacations. We really saw that trend become very popular throughout the pandemic, where people would say, you know what, I have my little bubble, the group that I've stayed with throughout this pandemic that I felt comfortable with, and I'm going to go on vacation with them. So it might be, a family and the grandparents, or, two sets of families, or the cousins all together and the grandparents. But these villa vacations, people don't always associate AAA with the villas. They just think AAA would book a cruise or a hotel, but these houses are magnificent, and that's something we can book. And you name it. You can come with a gourmet chef, or a swimming pool, or tennis courts, or whatever you choose, right, Kevin?
Or all the above.
Yeah. Some have movie theaters inside and more, but that allows you to really enjoy yourself in a luxurious home as part of your vacation. This picture I had to show too. This is also from Royal Caribbean's private island. It's the largest freshwater pool in all of the Caribbean, and it's incredible. and it was so nice. I traveled in July. I went on a cruise with Royal Caribbean. I have a few other pictures in the presentation too. And it was so nice to be there with limited capacity on the ship, but a full crew. So the hotels and the cruises and, you know, the different travel vendors are all welcoming people back with open arms because they're so excited to see travelers again. So this is like one of my favorite spots.
And think about not having to fight anybody for the chairs or for the beach loungers, as you showed on the beach earlier.
Exactly.
And in Europe, with the huge lines that you would normally expect to see during, peak season traveling around in Europe. I've got travelers in Italy right now that are going around and they're not experiencing really any major wait times for anything, and they're they're loving it.
Yeah,
So
yeah. This is so great because when you think about this pool like this is one thing. This pool really crowded is a whole different environment, you know. So it was really nice to be here. Personally, I thought it was a great time to travel when you could enjoy it all without the crowds. So if we're taking a look at fall destinations, Orlando always comes up number one for Western New York. Those theme parks are just calling everyone's names, and they do it right no matter what the holiday season is. You know, Disney has Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween. Universal has Halloween Horror Nights. So you take your pick if you want it to be fun or scary. But it always seems like no matter what travel destination or what holiday comes up, Orlando is that top destination. And like we mentioned, the national parks really popular. You know, especially these ones that stood out were really Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone, and the Grand Canyon. But some of the lesser known parks also becoming more and more popular. People who are traveling out west, and this time of year for fall, a lot of people are going up to the Northeast. Acadia National Park has become a popular destination with people who want to hike and experience the Northeast, and of course Vermont and New Hampshire right now. Those peak fall colors calling everyone's name. And if you can't go that far, you know, we have the wine trails and the Finger Lakes and the Thousand Islands, and the Adirondacks used to be only a summer destination, but you know, we've seen a lot of people going up there this past weekend for the holiday weekend, and also throughout October and into November before, you know, things get a little too chilly to maybe be camping up there. So these are all destinations too, some that you would drive to and some that you would fly to as well. This is a fall foliage shot that I got in Western New York. And we wanted to talk a little bit more about cruising because I know people have so many questions about cruising. Of course, when the pandemic began, the cruise ships were in the news because there were people stranded on the cruise ships, and that you would think that might deter people, but there's still people that saying, I want to go and I'm ready to go today if I can go. So people that cruise love cruises. There's a lot of repeat travelers who cruise. And so they're really looking to get back out there as well. So I was one of the first to sail out of Miami with Royal Caribbean. And now we've been seeing more and more cruises being added on and more destinations being offered, right, Kevin?
absolutely. And and I just a little over a month ago, I was just on a cruise in Bermuda with Viking, and we actually only had 1/3 of the ship filled. And so it really was great. Again, there weren't any lines for anything. You didn't have to wait. You didn't have to make reservations for the dining. When we were going on the shore excursions, yes, those were a little bit more filled up because they only needed the number of excursions for the number of passengers that were actually sailing at that particular date. But even then, they had, the things that please wear your mask. We're spacing out the seating so that you're not sitting on top of each other during these excursions, and it really they did a great job in making us feel safe, and asking people to wear masks indoors at all times, of course, unless when you're drinking or you're eating something, but hand sanitizers everywhere. It really was a great thing. And then, when you're thinking about these destinations and where you're looking to go, keep in mind also Alaska season, for example. Season is the key word. It's a very short season compared to somewhere that you could sail year round. So that is a limited capacity to begin with. And then we have limited capacity on the cruise ships on top of that. So that's where we're seeing sometimes dates may not be available. If capacity restrictions do get eased as COVID does wane, then there's a chance that they could reopen, but we can't count on that. So if you don't want to be disappointed, definitely the earlier you plan, the better it's going to be for you.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I know the cruise lines, the regulations and the protocols were changing literally on a daily basis. And now they pretty much in place recently. When I went, we had to provide proof of vaccination in advance, and that was part of the pre-registration process to go on the cruise. And then we were required to wear a mask indoors, but when you're up on the pool deck or outside, you didn't need to wear the mask. And You got used to it. It didn't take away from any of the experience. I would say any of the health and safety protocols that were in place didn't hamper my trip at all whatsoever, and didn't take up any more time. And in fact, some things worked out even better than they did in the past, in my opinion. For instance, the muster drill. So people know when they go to cruise, when you get on the ship, they usually have a 6 p.m. muster drill. Everyone must be on. Go everyone out on the deck, and everyone's crowded there, and they give everyone the instructions about the life jackets and the safety protocols. Well, to have it be socially distanced, they had that done separately. So when you get on the cruise, you would just go with your individual party that you were traveling with, whether it's a couple or a family or a solo traveler, and they would just give you your one-on-one muster drill. And it made it so much easier. And that was taken care of right away when you got on board. And then you didn't have to worry about going back for the muster drill later in the evening.
Some of them are even doing it where you just watch it on the TV right in your stateroom. And that, again, you'll go to the lounge just so that you know where that is actually located, but the actual drill itself is done right on the TV. And then when we were done watching it on the TV, we just had a little thing to check off. It showed that we had actually watched the drill. So, again, it was the way that they met the requirements for international maritime law, that everybody on board was aware of what to do in the event of, et cetera. So they're doing everything they possibly can to keep everybody safe. And vaccinations required, that's pretty much everything now. It is what it is. And it's unfortunate for those that, it's not going to work out for them. But at the same point, for those that are able to take advantage of this, it's one more step to be sure you're going to be safe and that everybody around you will be safe from you as well.
Yeah, that's a great point to make too. And this picture shows you just how crowded the pool was. You normally don't see, this is a crowded day. You don't normally see a cruise ship this empty. There was no need to go down and try and reserve a chair or get a spot. It was just really nice as far as not a lot of people on board, but they'll start to add, as the restrictions loosen, more passengers that will be allowed on the ships. But it was still such an enjoyable experience. And if you look just past the pool ship, you of course go around the ship in the popular Windjammer Cafe for those who have sailed on Royal Caribbean. For instance, there's hand washing stations, not just hand sanitizer, and they ask you to please wash your hands with soap and water before you go into the cafe. So they are doing everything they can to keep everyone safe. And I thought it made me feel more comfortable for sure. And I know a lot of people love those European river cruises. It's a bucket list destination for a lot of people, and some are repeat travelers, even to the European river cruising, because they enjoy it so much they want to go back again and again. And you're seeing more people looking for that. And are the Christmas markets, is there any availability left for this year?
There is actually, and surprisingly, if this were 2019, the only way you'd get any availability is somebody canceled. Today, there is availability out there. Again, they are going to be doing some restrictions, less capacity for the bookings, again, unless things ease. And we're not talking about things easing so much here. It's about things easing, the capacity restrictions in Europe, because they're following what the guidelines are for each country that they're going to be going and visiting. So, if they're saying you can only sail with a 50% capacity or 60% or whatever, they do have to adhere to those guidelines. So you're not seeing full sailings on the ships. The sailing that I'll be doing coming up, leaving this coming Saturday, they actually invited travel agents on board just because the capacity, or they just didn't have a lot of people that wanted to travel. So here's the perfect opportunity to give the agents that personal experience so that we can relate it to our clients. And that's not, can't even remember the last time Viking did something like that. It's got to be more than 10 years ago, because they are always, always, always filled for every cruise prior to COVID-19. So this really is the time frame when you can get in. There could be some discounts out there that could make it very worthwhile. And for those that say, well, it's still not ready, I'll wait until 2022. Those are available, but they're booking out, and you probably won't see the discounts as good for 2022 because they know they're going to fill them. They don't have to do discounts to get people on board.
Yeah, I know we saw a lot of discounts as far as like even the ocean cruise liners and more, but those, again, I'm sure will become scarce once, it's all an issue of supply and demand.
Right, exactly.
For those who aren't familiar with the Christmas markets, these river cruises become very popular in the Christmas time. Of course, they're popular in the spring and the summer, but they have these Christmas markets in Europe. And Kevin, if you've been to one, maybe you can explain what it's like. I've read all about it and I've seen a lot of pictures, but I haven't been there in person yet.
You've got to do it, Elizabeth. I'm telling you, it's one of my absolute favorite things to do. I've done it both river cruising as well as traveling city to city. I did a Budapest, Vienna, Prague trip, but the river cruise program, you're just packing and unpacking once. You're stopping in the places that have these Christmas markets, and you're being led to the markets. And you go there, they're generally all open air markets with little huts with little roofs on them, and they've got heaters inside and all sorts of different Christmas paraphernalia. But then they also have the stalls that are doing the European Glühwein, which is the mulled wine, the hot chocolate. Many of them have these collectible mugs that people collect and bring back home with them. And this was from this year and this Christmas market, or this was while we were in Vienna, or this was while we were in Prague, et cetera, et cetera. They even have them on the Rhine. And I've done them in both the Danube and the Rhine. And I always make sure there's extra room in the suitcase for all the trinkets and stuff that I'm bringing back from them. The house is getting a little overloaded with Christmas these days.
You have to have the souvenirs.
Yeah.
But even Toronto has a Christmas market that was very popular, but we couldn't even go there for a long time. So I know there's a pent-up demand for people to have this experience.
And we're going to have one in Buffalo coming up this year. I think there's two actually this year.
Yeah, I saw some publicity for that as well. So they'll bring the experience here, but still, there's nothing like the river cruise where these cruise ships are small. I mean, thousands of people fit on an ocean cruise, but a lot of them are 150 people on a river cruise, and they sail right into the heart of different cities. So you step off and you're right there, and they have incredible tour guides that are so knowledgeable that show you around, and there's different tours available for whatever speed you want to go at, a slower pace or maybe a hiking tour, a bicycle excursion. There's something for everyone, literally, and to experience those Christmas markets would be really, really inspiring.
And no worried about motion on the ocean.
When I went on my first river cruise, I said that. I'm like, what if I get seasick? And then when I got there, I laughed, thinking, there's no way anyone could get seasick on this. You could see both sides of land at all times. It was smooth sailing for sure.
For sure.
But definitely wined and dined as well, and a great experience.
Absolutely.
Yeah, highly recommend the river cruises. And speaking of river cruises in Europe, Kevin I call him our European expert, because you've traveled throughout Europe. You're so knowledgeable at so many different destinations. And like you said, some people booking so far out in advance, which was really unheard of in the past, but interesting that people would want to book just so they have something to look forward to.
That's really what I've seen for the people that are not ready to travel in 2021. They are booking that 2022, 2023 is becoming more. We're seeing more of those 2023 bookings. I was just actually emailing with somebody earlier today that they are booking their Sandals 2023 booking. And we've got some cruises booked for 2023. Some of the tour companies haven't opened 2023 yet, but a couple of them have. Viking, you can actually book out to 2024. So they know that pent-up demand is there, and they're opening those books up so that they get their foot in the door before the other cruise lines have their books open. So, it's a great marketing thing for them to be able to have the expansion capability in their system to go that far out, and it's pretty impressive.
And I know some people will say, what happens if I get over there and I test positive? Because on some of them, they do require testing. Or what if I get sick and I have to quarantine when I'm there? So that has deterred some people. But we'll talk about the popularity coming up of travel insurance, which is something you should do to protect your investment. But then you see some people who are saying, I'm going no matter what.
That's pretty much it. If I have to deal with social distancing, wearing a mask when I'm going out in public at home, why wouldn't I just do that and be doing it somewhere that's going to be more fun than, Buffalo in the fall, well, late fall, winter, early spring, when the weather can just be so dreary. If it's going to be, that way, elsewhere, I can still be doing fun things. When we're here at home, we just deal with life day by day. And it's, you need that break. A lot of people, they'll head south to, let's go somewhere warm. But again, you could be traveling at a time when it would normally be a very slow season for other areas. And then you've got that opportunity to still keep traveling when you're not dealing with large crowds of people. It's automatically become safer just from that. And of course, you could pick it up going shopping at Tops or Wegmans. You could pick it up, meeting family or friends. You just don't know what it could be. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen at this point. We're coming up on, what is it now, Elizabeth, 19 months, 20 months?
Right. I stopped counting, but yeah.
And it just gets wearing. We've been a society that's been so used to being able to pick up and go whenever we want, wherever we want. And that has created a lot of problems for people, just mindsets and everything. So having that something to look forward and plan, even if it's a little further out, it's just giving you that bright spot. And for those that say, you know what, I can get out, I'm going to take advantage, I can get a discount, it's going to be less people traveling, so I'm going to feel safer. When I flew on the flight with going to Bermuda, I was amazed at how comfortable I felt. Everybody on the plane was wearing a mask. And I of course did other things. I had my sanitary wipes with me so I could just wipe my hands if I had to touch anything. And it just really was a safe feeling. I am looking forward to this trip coming up. And I think because it's going to be Viking again, and the way that they handled the Bermuda trip, I'm expecting the same experience when I'm going on the river cruise, and to feel that safe as well with that one.
Well, we sure hope that you have a great trip and a safe one. And I have to say, you mentioned the airlines, they really are doing a great job. For instance, this past weekend when we went to New York City, my daughter fell asleep and her mask kind of moved down a little bit. Her nose was exposed, and the flight attendant came right over and, gave her a nudge and said, you have to pull that up. And, she didn't mean to have it slide down. She dozed off, but they are keeping that close of an eye on everyone. And if you don't have on the right mask, they'll give you one that meets the, if someone had like a bandana tied, they're like, no, you need a mask. Like, here's one, we will provide one to you. So the airlines are definitely going, above and beyond to try and keep everyone safe on board. And you mentioned kind of the bucket list, or the YOLO, you only live once type of approach. And I know a lot of your clients have said that, where they've saying, you know what, I couldn't go anywhere for so long, or the pandemic made me realize that I have to live my life and make the most out of every day and every opportunity. And that was inspiring some people to take trips.
That's been the case. I mean, life is happening. It's going on, whether you want to sit at home and watch it go by, or you want to go out and do something. You could be doing your biking trips here. You could be doing your road trips here. You could also be doing the same thing in Europe or somewhere else. And, it's, you just don't know what's coming around the corner. It could have nothing to do with COVID. And, if you have that opportunity and you don't take it, how are you going to feel later on that you didn't do that? I've got a lot of travelers that, we're going to wait until retirement age, and they've come to me and said, you know what? Who knows what retirement age is going to be? I might win the lottery and be done earlier, but at the same point, I might be waiting until I'm 67, and I can't wait. We've just seen so many things happening. We are going to do what we need to do, and we're going to enjoy our life. We're not going to work to what is it? Work to live or live to work? We're not going to live to work. We're going to work to live. And so, I can agree with that philosophy, because every day is precious.
It sure is. And this is an example of one of the bike excursions with the river cruises in Europe. So take me there. I wish I was there right now. It looks absolutely beautiful. Of course, air travel we mentioned, and rail travel as well. Amtrak vacations are very popular. You'll see why right here. Enjoy the fall foliage while you're traveling with Amtrak, and get to see the entire country. And they really have some incredible opportunities to travel with Amtrak. They have different itineraries that are pre-planned. If you want to head down to Charleston and Savannah, if you want to head out west to the national parks, they have some really great opportunities. So that's something that a lot of people do consider. But we remind everyone, make sure you wear that mask. Like we said, they will check and make sure you're wearing it. And also, we always remind everyone, I did this before the pandemic. I always brought sanitizing wipes and wiped down the tray table, the seat belt. And now even, doctors will recommend that people do that. So I think it started as soon as I had a baby. I'm like, oh, we're taking the baby on a plane. I got to wipe it down and make sure it's sanitized and it's clean. So it just gives you some peace of mind. So bring that PPE, that personal protective equipment. So, the sanitizing wipes and the hand sanitizer. And, it's about protecting your own personal safety.
Don't forget the armrest. Don't forget the overhead bin anywhere that you might touch, the latch anywhere along. Like some people will use that to balance as they're standing up or getting ready to sit down, grabbing the edge of the bin or something. So I just wipe across that and make sure anything I'm going to be touching while I'm at the screen, if your flight has TV screens, wipe off that TV screen, any of the buttons you have to touch. And again, I was doing that same as you, Elizabeth, before that even started. The only thing I wasn't doing was wearing a mask. And every time I traveled, I'd say, why am I not wearing a mask?
Right.
Somebody is coughing next to me, behind me, sneezing. And it was just that closed environment that didn't have all the protections that they have today. So again, definitely feel a lot safer now.
And people should be prepared because there might not be in-flight beverage service, or it may be extremely limited. So if you go through TSA, through the checkpoint in the airport, that's the time to buy a snack that you can take on board. There's, of course, some things you can bring on board with you, but you can't, of course, take liquids through TSA. So you might want to grab a bottle of water or a beverage of your choice in the airport so that you do have that on the flight, because there's limited services as far as food service on a lot of the flights still.
Right, especially the short haul flights.
And of course, we remind everyone, if you are traveling Amtrak and enjoying the scenery, why not get a private room? Because those are often available where you can have, your true social distancing and great view as well.
And sometimes on some of the routes, they even bring the food to your room rather than you having to go to a dining area.
Oh, that would be great. And we have a trip right now, group travel trip. So AAA can book individual travel, or we offer trips that anyone can join in, and it's escorted by a travel advisor who can show you around, a tour guide. And they take you right now. For instance, Brian Murray has a group. They're out west. They're traveling on a Rocky Mountaineer, which is a very popular train out west. I know the weather wasn't cooperating so well when Brian sent me a message yesterday. They had a little rain, a little wind, a little snow even, but it didn't stop them from having a great time. So there are group travel opportunities that people can get involved in as well. If you are using a rental car, we saw that earlier this year, the rental car shortage. So what happened was that a lot of the rental car companies sold off their fleets when the pandemic hit because no one was traveling in 2020. And then when people started to travel again in 2021, they tried to get more cars to replace what they sold off, and there was a shortage of vehicles and chips to go on the vehicles from the manufacturers as more, so they couldn't get as many cars as they wanted. So that led to this rental car shortage, especially in very popular areas. So we do remind everyone that they shouldn't use that rental car as like the last minute add-on, the way it used to be back in the day. Now people should really plan that rental car when they're planning the entire trip from the very beginning.
Right. I've had clients where they've actually said, okay, the rental car is this much if we go at this time. What if we change our dates and go to this time? And so they're kind of making the rental car the primary planner and then working the rest of the trip around it, because they didn't want to spend $1,200 for a car rental when they could have gotten it for $500.
Right, right.
So
And you want to use whatever discounts you can as well.
exactly. And the other thing too is when our agents are making these reservations, they're putting that into the system. If Hertz is not the best, we still will put in a reservation for Hertz, and we keep comparing it against the one with, say, Alamo or Budget or whoever. And many times, in fact, just recently, I had 3 women traveling down to Florida, and we started out with a reservation that was over $1,000 traveling on Budget. And we had the Hertz reservation as the backup, and Hertz ended up, we found out 2 days before they were going, the final drop occurred, and they got it for just under $600 for the same exact car type. They were thrilled.
I'm sure they were, of course. Yeah, that's a lot of extra money back in your pocket to enjoy your vacation.
Yep. So our agents are monitoring that, and if they see a drop, they're automatically doing it. They're not calling you up and saying, "Hey, do you want to save some money?" And if it still ends up being that the other car rental company is going to be the best deal, we're going with it. But if the Hertz program, that's the partner with AAA, comes up with a better option, if you're a AAA member, you've got so many benefits that are part of that. It really makes sense, and we just switch it over and say bye-bye to the other reservation. You're not prepaying them, so it's not like you're losing anything by doing something like that. It's just a benefit.
Great. It's great that you could work on behalf of other people to help them with that too. some of the benefits include maybe it's a free car seat that you can get, so you don't have to lug your car seat down, or maybe it's a second driver that's included, because a lot of times you rent a vehicle, it's only for the one driver. Well, Hertz will let you, with the AAA partnership, have a second driver, so that's handy. So both the husband and the wife, or the two traveling partners, can both drive the vehicle.
And if you have another driver that's also a AAA, remember, as long as you have AAA members in the vehicle, my understanding is there's not a charge for additional drivers. Those three women were not related. They all had to show their AAA memberships, and when they get to the counter, they all are eligible to be drivers on the car with no extra fees. So, that's just a huge benefit. That could save $10 to $15 a day on your rental. And if you need GPS instead of using your phone for it, we even have a discounted rate on doing GPS, where they've already placed it in the vehicle for you. So there's definitely lots of benefits.
There sure are. And think about too, if you need that rental car, and that's something where, like Kevin is going on this trip to gain expertise of another destination. So that's where the travel agents are helpful too. They can let you know what the destination's like. For instance, we were going to Tampa in April for a family wedding, and I'm like, oh, we should just rent the rental car, make sure we have it. If I would have kind of looked through a little bit better in advance what the itinerary was and what options were available in Tampa, we never needed the rental car. We used it the one day to go to the beach. We could have used it just for one day. Otherwise, it's sat in the parking garage. I felt like saying, go get the rental car just to drive around the block. So it makes me feel better to justify the money we spent. But it was so handy to use Uber and the public transportation. And they even had those electric scooters that you could rent right on the street. So there were a lot of different options as far as travel. So think about that too, if you need the rental car or not, if you can get by without it. We heard the stories of some people driving U-Haul trucks and everything else amid this rental car shortage. So you don't want to get into a situation like that.
Right.
And we had talked a little bit about the expertise of a travel agent, but a recent survey by AAA showed that 6 in 10 Americans, that's 60%, you say they see the benefit of working with a travel agent now during the pandemic, and a lot of people have realized that. So 40% say they want to save time. I know people say, I can go and do it online myself, but if you're like me, you get sucked into these travel websites and you're doing research, and hours and hours and hours add up, and wait a minute, I could have just called Kevin and talked to him about it and then all set. 34% say they want help because there's so many travel restrictions and requirements right now that can get very complicated. So they want that expertise. And 33% want to find the best deals, like Kevin, you had mentioned, as far as, really working to find the best car rates and more. So some people think that it costs more to use a travel consultant, but that's not really the case. They actually save you money.
No, I mean, for people that really enjoy the planning process, we definitely can see, that's what you want to do. Some people do it just for the research value, to be sure that when they're comparing what we can find, is AAA still finding me the best deal? Well, depending on what you found and what you're willing to do to get that particular rate, there may be something that's out there that's different, but it's fairly rare. And you also have to be aware of who you're working with and how reputable that they are. And sometimes you see something that starts on one page and then you get to a final page and it's a completely different rate, and not everybody pays attention to those details. And now they're locked into something that they can't get out of. And there have been a lot of surprises and people coming into AAA and saying, can you help me with this? I can't get out of this. Once you make that booking with an independent program, we can't get involved in it. They won't let AAA touch the record. So,
and we've learned too, people book on their own, and then good luck trying to call if something goes wrong and your flight's canceled and you're stuck in an airport or you missed a connection or whatever it might be. You can't just pick up the phone and call one of these websites. It's almost impossible to find a phone number for a lot of them. Whereas, we always say AAA is there for you before, during, and after your trip. So we always have someone on standby if there's a problem with the reservation.
Yeah, the online travel agencies, when COVID all first started, they were the ones that had the worst reputation because people just couldn't get through. And when they contacted the airline said, you booked it through Expedia, Travelocity, whatever, you've got to go through them. We can't help you. And that obviously created a lot of stress for people. So, we're there to help. We're there to try to make it easier for you. And, sometimes in the event of, when there's been any major airline malfunctions or interruptions, There might be times when we'll be able to do something that helps so that, you know, you're not standing in line forever, or you're not on hold for, you know, 6 hours, or, you know, or we're the ones doing the 6-hour hold for you instead of you doing it, and you're going on about your life. So there's definitely times that, you know, the benefit of the travel agent really is there. We're your advocate.
Well, we definitely saw that, especially at the start of the pandemic when there were so many cancellations coming through. And, you know, you picture the luxurious life of Kevin Bloom traveling out and about and sending people on vacation. Well, there he was, you know, on the phone, on the computer, you know, struggling and waiting on hold, really trying to change everyone's reservations and postpone trips and get travel credits. I mean, our whole team at AAA was really working around the clock.
Right. And you remember, just like everywhere else, staffing is short. People have not necessarily come back to work. So we're dealing with that when we're calling the airlines and the cruise lines. You're dealing with that when you're calling them. And so, you know, we have the same issue. There's less staff. So, you know, we're doing the best that we can do. If we're doing it for you, you can still do what you need to do. We're the ones that are sitting on hold for you. And
And
that to me is, I mean, sometimes that's half my day is just sitting on hold. So, you know, we want to be the best that we can be for what you need.
right, very well said. And if you choose to do it yourself, that's fine. You know, we're here if you need us at AAA, but you know, you want to go out, you want to schedule your own travel. Just remember to read the fine print and be prepared to lobby on your own behalf, and make sure you understand what the cancellation policy is, and make sure there's some flexibility there. That's going to go a long way in making your trip more enjoyable, and giving you some more peace of mind as well.
For sure.
And this is one of the reasons people are going for that travel insurance, because they have learned, you know, how important it is. Of course, certain things are not covered under travel insurance, and this is another reason why you're going to need an expert. Sometimes a pandemic isn't recognized. Sometimes in the beginning, you know, COVID-19 was a known threat, then they said they're not going to cover it, but sometimes you can get canceled for any reason. So these are all the reasons that you're going to want to talk to someone about the proper travel insurance for your trip. So the recent survey by AAA showed that about a third of U.S. travelers say they're, you know, probably more than likely to purchase travel insurance for trips now and the end of next year. 70%, almost 69% say the reason was because they want to be able to get a refund. So choosing that policy is so important, Kevin.
It absolutely is. I mean, you've got cancel for any reason. You've got cancel due to covered reasons. There's vendors, the cruise lines and the tour companies that have travel insurance programs, and maybe theirs is cancel for any reason, but it's for future travel credit. But if the other policies are only for due to covered reasons, at least you have an option that if you just had a change of mind, you at least have something. It wasn't just lost money. And so knowing what those options are and then deciding what is right for you, that's better information for you to make the right decisions. And it really comes down to making right decisions. And you know, if it doesn't make sense to do that and you're willing to take a higher risk, then you at least had the information to make that decision versus you didn't know what the options were.
Well, right in the heart of Times Square over the weekend, you could see the big glowing Allianz sign at the top of one of the skyscrapers, and that's the travel insurance company.
That's
People
who
recognize
AAA
that
has a
more.
contract with. Yes,
Yeah,
we use them a lot.
I recognize Allianz's name more now than ever before
I
during
was
that
so
pandemic.
excited the first time I saw a building in Europe that had the Allianz sign up there.
Another thing, of course, AAA has diamond ratings for the hotels: 5 diamond, 4 diamond, 3 diamond. You know, diamond approved, whatever the level might be, the value that you're looking for. But this year we added AAA inspected clean for hotels. So AAA has the oldest hotel and restaurant inspection process, with independent inspectors who go out unannounced to different properties and check it over to make sure it meets quality standards. So this year they added a special test where they're actually using on-site swabbing to the inspection process. So this is after more than 80 years of doing the inspections. They made an improvement to them because of the pandemic. So they'll actually swab surfaces that are commonly touched in a hotel, like the remote control or the faucet in the bathroom, the light switch or the doorknob, and make sure that they really are sanitized and clean. So if you see this inspected clean logo that shows that an unannounced inspector went through and made sure that this was spotless. And 76% of travelers are saying that they did want this evaluation to make sure these hotel touch points would be clean.
Well, and another thing, Elizabeth, when you think about this, they're doing all these things to make things clean. They may also curtail some of the services that they normally would do, how often they actually are in to clean the rooms, or what they're allowed to. They may not even be allowed to come into the room while you're in there. They might have to be able to just leave it outside the door or hand it to you at the doorway. So you've got to remember that there are a lot of protections and restrictions in there for your protection. And there's, of course, for their employees, but it really is more about making it safe for people to want to come and stay at their hotel. So I've seen some reviews that people have written about, oh, you couldn't do this at the hotel and you couldn't do that, and they were giving it a 1 or a 2. But obviously they were forgetting that there are still protocols in place, and that could be affecting what they're doing or what they're trying to do to keep everybody safe. And so those reviews aren't necessarily fair reviews when people are writing those up. So I'm more likely to trust that AAA Diamond and inspected clean review than I am somebody writing something on TripAdvisor.
Right. I mean, how many times have you gone to go on a trip and you just read the reviews and then you're like, someone hated it, someone loved it. And you're like, okay, do I trust the person from Miami or the person from Kansas or the person from Europe or whoever's writing all these reviews? And I'm like, okay,
Right.
I don't even know if these are legitimate. Why am I getting so worked up over this? So it can be stressful when you start reading those reviews for sure.
Yep.
But it's nice to know that the diamond ratings are there, of course, and we have some great 4 diamond hotels right here in our region as well. Delaware Avenue is like Diamond Row. You've got the Mansion on Delaware. You've got the Westin on Delaware. You've got Oliver's. Those are all 4 diamond properties right here in Buffalo. So that's kind of cool too. Nothing like a staycation and going to support them. I know we want to save some time for questions here, but road trips, reminder too, to plan your route in advance. For instance, on the New York State Thruway, there are several travel plazas that are closed right now, and there's going to be multiple phases of redevelopment of these travel plazas. So there's no restroom available at these travel plazas. And you can find out that information at triptych.aaa.com. And yes, we still have the good old-fashioned triptych. We don't make them by hand with the highlighter anymore. They're generated on a computer, and they can be digital, or we can print them out for you. And a lot of people still come in for those trusted triptychs. For instance, we lost service on a recent road trip, and my daughter's like, there is no service here. And we're literally at the fork in the road. Like, do we go left or do we go right? I'm like, oh, I didn't think I was going far enough to need a triptych, but I really need one right now, as neither of our phones would work. But you want to make sure that you can plan things in advance and go to restrooms along the way, and make sure you're going to ones that are reputable, that are cleaned on a regular basis. So the triptychs are also going to let you know different restrictions by state, because there are still different restrictions depending on what state you're going to. Some still require a mask, some might not require a mask. All of that would be listed on there too. But just a reminder, if you can pack, snacks and water, that means less stops, that means less exposure if you're touching more different surfaces and things like that. A lot of people have been through, that's again about protecting your own personal safety. So you definitely want to plan ahead for the road trips. And of course, AAA is all about traffic safety. So we remind everyone to be careful when taking a road trip. Avoid medications that might make you drowsy. Drive at times when you're used to traveling. If you're a night owl, great. If you're not, then you don't want to try and drive overnight. You want to make sure that you're alert and you avoid fatigue on the road. And of course, now is the time to pack the emergency kit, whether you're going on a road trip or not, because we all know winter is right around the corner, even though we've had some great fall weather. So we want to make sure that everyone has a cell phone and a charger in their vehicle in case you break down, you need to call for help. So many times AAA will get a call saying, oh, I'm broken down and my phone's about to die. You want to make sure that you can stay in contact with someone. So the chargers are cheap now. You can just get one to keep in your vehicle. First aid kit, and have some water and snacks in there. A lot of people travel with pets, so we even remind everyone to take pet treats in the vehicle as well. And of course, basic tools in case you do run into a problem along the road. Even though AAA service is available 24/7, 365, you want that peace of mind to make sure that you're prepared in case you do break down. And do we have any questions at this point? I know Kevin was going to check the chat.
I don't see any on the box here.
Okay, because I'm seeing quite a few, so they just
Okay.
came to me. So, all right, well, thank you both. So yeah, we'll jump into these. The first one I'm seeing is a comment. It says, "We are taking advantage more of Airbnbs nowadays."
We saw that trend for sure. Let's take the Finger Lakes, for example, a nearby destination. It was almost impossible to get a rental in summer 2020 because New Yorkers were supposed to stay within New York State. Meanwhile, a lot of people were working down in Manhattan and said, I want to get out of the crowded city. I'm going to go up and I'm going to book this house, or maybe it's a cottage or whatever it is, for an entire month, and I'll just work remotely. That limited the availability of what people were seeing as far as rentals that were available. But we talked about the villa vacation. So we can book those through AAA. And some of the villas are luxurious and expensive, and you're in lifestyles of the rich and famous, but there are a lot as well that are more reasonable and family friendly, and provide more of a value. So, Kevin, there's really something for anyone's budget with the villa vacations.
Right. And when you're thinking about that, you're working with a company who has standards and requirements that people have to follow if they're going to put their villas or apartments or whatever into that program. With Airbnb, there have been ups and downs with it, and what is the oversight of it, and where is this, what's the guarantee of safety? How do you know that everything was sanitized properly, et cetera? So that's always been a concern. And unfortunately, Airbnb doesn't work with travel agents. So it's not a program that we can get involved with because, we're putting AAA's reputation at stake if we're telling you go do something like this. So it's really, you're just taking that responsibility on your own shoulders when you're doing something like that. People have had a lot of great experiences with it, and we've also heard a lot of not so great or horror story experiences with it. So, we always want it to be about what is going to be the best option for you, also what's going to be the safest option for you. So again, it's one more tool that you can use to take into consideration to decide what is your best option. We're not saying don't do it, but we're saying just be sure you're doing it with all the right information.
Yeah, and that's why we work with the Villas of Distinction. That's a vendor that we use to book the villas, because they are organized through a company. If there was a problem, they're going to fix it immediately, rather
Right.
than an individual person like, I'm going to put my house up as an Airbnb.
Right. Which you
Okay.
also have VRBO, which has become popular as well. And that's kind of the same concept as that Airbnb. So with Villas of Distinction, we have a lot more trust in the product. The others, it's whatever the owner of the property decides what they want to do.
All good points. Thank you both. This next question, somebody's wondering, where is that freshwater pool? Is that Coco Cay or Clay?
Yes, it's at Coco Cay. That's Royal Caribbean's private island. Perfect day at Coco Cay. And I always say it's perfect in every way, especially now when it's not crowded.
Right.
They also have a swim out floating bar, and it's not too far of a swim, and you can swim out there and you have a cocktail in the middle of paradise. It was pretty fun to do that.
Oh, that's awesome. This next question is, what are they seeing with the American River cruises for Mississippi, etc.?
I think
You
that's an
want to talk
answer for
about it, Elizabeth?
Kevin.
You
Yeah,
want?
I
Okay,
know.
all right.
Yeah, Viking is expanding here.
Yeah, so Viking is starting up at the end of 2022 in the market. So that's a new big player coming into the market. Currently, right now, you've got two major players in the market, American Queen and American Cruise Line. And so because of the demand of everybody going into, more domestic vacations, that's been very popular. They booked out very well for this year, and they're doing very well for 2022. When Viking comes into the market in the fall of 2022, and then throughout 2023 and now 2024, they're going to be the new player in the game. Their vessels are larger than what they're using on their European river cruise program. Your maximum 190 passengers on the river cruise program in Europe, and here I think they're going to be over 300, but that's comparable to what American Queen is doing. So they didn't want to be a smaller size vessel. They wanted to be able to compete with their biggest competitors. And they're following all the requirements that the US requires. They have to be built in the United States and crewed by an American crew, et cetera, et cetera. So they're also booking. You can't, unless again, a cancellation comes up for 2022, there's nothing in 2022. and many dates in 2023 are gone. So, you know, Viking is, if you think about all the repeat travelers in Viking, it's almost like a cult. Because they just have such wonderful experiences. They want to keep trying the new things that Viking keeps coming up with. So just from repeat travelers, they sold out 2022. And then when they opened 2023, they were selling like crazy for that as well. Some of them then moved from 2022 to 2023. So there's been a little bit of shifting around, but it's a super, super popular product. And again, it's that great pack and unpack once during that time, not necessarily that motor coach tour where you're seeing different destinations day by day, but you're also rolling the suitcase every time in and out of hotels and all that kind of fun stuff. So it really is a much more relaxing way to be able to travel.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm seeing just a couple more things here. This next one is an all-inclusive that good of a deal? What should I be looking for in the fine print?
Okay, that's kind of a tricky question because it depends on the all-inclusive itself, what's included in the all-inclusive deal, what is the quality of the product that you're looking at, what is the destination? Some destinations are a lot more expensive than other destinations. So if you were doing everything a la carte, what would that end up costing you? And what it costs you and what it costs the person in the next room could be two different things depending on what your lifestyle is. So if one person spends a lot of time at the bar and they eat at the best restaurants and they do all these different activities that would be included on the all-inclusive product, that's going to be a pretty hefty bill at the end of the trip versus the person that just wants to spend their entire time on the beach and they are drinking mostly water, and you know you've got different styles for different people. And so it's really about what makes the most sense for you. There are properties that are not all inclusive that you can go to, but those are the people that come back to me and say, I didn't realize the bill was going to be as high as it was at the end of the trip. You order a drink and you could be looking $10 to $15 for one cocktail. Beer might cost you $6 to $8. A Coke might be $3, $4, or $5. So, you know, it's what is the destination? What is the quality of the property? Is it a 3-star? Is it a 4-star? Is it a 5-star luxury property? And those are all factors that have to be taken into account. And then if the hotel is willing to share their menu and prices with you, then you can kind of get an idea what you think you might be doing. But remember also, if you're going to a warm weather destination, which is where most of the all-inclusives are, your beverage intake, whether it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic, usually doubles to triples because it's so hot. And so that alone, you could be doing a lot more drinking of beverages than you would have expected. And if it's an all-inclusive, you're not thinking about it. I'm thirsty. I need a drink. When I'm putting it on my tab and I keep ringing that tab up and then I get that bill at the end of the trip, that might be a completely different story.
I've gotten tabs like that at the end, and they're not fun.
I'm sure. Thank you. Okay, this next is what is the best place to travel in January? Thank you.
Oh, again, another tricky question because it comes down to what are you looking for? Are you looking for a warm weather destination? Are you looking for the opportunity to have all-inclusive options? The US is very, very short on all-inclusive options. There's one in Florida. There might be a couple of hotels here or there that are not like a national program, but otherwise you have to go to Mexico or the Caribbean to get an all-inclusive option. Some people aren't looking for warm weather. They're looking for skiing destinations. So that could be another opportunity. Or they don't ski, but they're looking to do winter activities. So it comes down to what are you looking for? And also, best destination. Are you talking in terms of activities? Are you talking in terms of price? So all again, those are factors that come into play as to what is the best destination for that time frame. The popular destinations for wintertime, the bulk of people are going somewhere warm. Get me out of the cold and the snow and the ice and etc. And I'll take my chances with the weather conditions for the flights because I need to get away. Other people love the snow and the ice, and this is their chance to shine and to enjoy all the winter sport activities that they're looking for. We have some people that'll make the drive all the way up to Quebec City to do the Winter Carnival. And, so again, it's all about what your preferences are and what you're looking for. And then help decide what is the best. But if you're going somewhere where it's the high season, that's the most expensive time to be going. If you're going somewhere else where it's not high season, that's the time when you're saving money.
And just a reminder, if you are looking for the warm weather destinations, we sailed out of Miami on a cruise once in January, and it was not warm, and it didn't warm up until we got to at least Puerto Rico. So it's not always guaranteed warm weather unless you do go farther down south. You know,
Right.
Florida is a hit or miss for those. Of course, it's going to be warmer than Buffalo, but if you're looking to really enjoy the heat on the beach, you might need to go down a little further.
And even the Bahamas could have that same experience because generally they're off the coast of Florida. So whatever you're getting, maybe 5 degrees warmer in the Bahamas, but generally if it's 75 in Miami, it's 75 in the Bahamas. If it's 65 in Miami, it could be 65 in the Bahamas. So Puerto Rico and south, you're generally going to be getting warmer. The further south you go, the more stable the temperatures will stay. They're not, as affected by the polar vortex or, whatever phenomenon is coming through.
And of course, Aruba is known for great weather all year round, so you can't
Right.
go wrong there.
Yeah, they don't have a low season in Aruba.
Wow. It's a lot of things to take into consideration. Thank you both. And I know we're at time here, but we just have one more question, and it's a Bills question. So if you don't mind,
Mhm.
which Bills backer bar do you like in New York City? Go Bills.
So we went to Penn 6, which is Pennsylvania 6 on 31st, right near Madison Square Garden for the Bills game on Sunday. And you would think that you were in Buffalo. Everyone there, and you had to show a vaccination card to get in. And once you got in, every spot was taken, and people were just cheering, and they were playing the shout song, and it was a lot of excitement. And it felt just like I was in Buffalo. So go Bills.
Yeah, you can definitely find, there are places all throughout Manhattan, depending on what area you happen to be in. So if you're down in Tribeca, if you're over on the Upper West Side, there's always going to be an area that they're going to be celebrating, and you're going to see people wearing the jerseys and everything. So, but at the same point, hopefully the Bills aren't playing the Giants or the Jets.
Right. Well, this is the designated backers bar, so hopefully there's no rivalry there. But the Bills have a great travel schedule this year too, and we have a blog up at AAA.com about our top picks for where to go to see the Bills on the road. They're playing in Tampa in December, so that might be a great one. And of course, New Orleans and Nashville's coming up too, so a lot of travel opportunities to see them on the road.
Awesome. Wow. Well, we're a little over and we appreciate your time. So thank you for everything. And to everyone who was on, thank you so much. And hopefully we get back to safe travel soon.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. We appreciate it. And exactly, safe travels, everyone.
Safe travels.